coming to you live from our studios here at Adesawe, Kanda, Accra. This is the late edition of News at 10 on TV3, also live on DSTV channel 279. My name is Grace Hamwa-Sari. First, let's take a look at the news highlights for the day. A physician at the Komfanoshi Teaching Hospital in Kumasi, Dr. Maxwell Osayampofo, blames the high number of road accidents deaths on poor handling of victims before transporting them to health facilities. He has called for more incorporation of basic emergency care into the curriculum of both the police and fire service, as well as drivers, to minimize the avoidable deaths. Also, poultry farmers in the Bongahafu region bemoans the high cost of feed, which they say is crippling their business. Some farms, they lamented, have had to fold up due to the high production costs and interest on loans granted by banks. The cargo tracking NEWSAT10 policy rolls out for Monday, October 15, despite a suit challenging its implementation. A statement signed by the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Emmanuel Kofi Nti, served notice of the start of the intervention. Elsewhere in sports, a hasty and confusing decision by Beninois referee Adombeti causes mayhem at the Bukom Boxing Arena in Accra. Peter Kwawadato reports the referee signal after WBO Africa Super Bantamweight champion Isaac Seki was knocked down in round 3 sparked the brawl. And on the international front, Brexit negotiators meet to try to resolve big issues ahead of a crunch summit of EU leaders this week. The unscheduled talks between UK's Dominic Raab and EU's Michael Barnier, lasting more than an hour, focus on Northern Ireland and other outstanding areas of difference. Government sources have played down media reports a deal has been done. Many thanks for joining us. Let's go to our first story now. The Group Chief Executive of CDH Financial Holdings Limited and Fellow of the Institute of Chartered Economists Ghana, Emmanuel Edu Sarkodie, says the country has to situate its educational needs within the developmental needs of the country. This, he explained, will help determine how and which area of education needs to be funded in relation to the country's manpower needs.
What is the end of education? What do we want to achieve out of education? If we can situate it within the needs, then we know where to fund it and what gaps there are. Do we need more science education? Do we have to fund that a little bit more? Because it's almost impossible to fund everything at the same time. So we have to look at, identify which ones to fund first. So is it free for everything? Or is free for some parts, and is it free up to secondary level? Because if you cannot pay your child's fees at the secondary level, I'm wondering how the child will make it through tertiary education. Because even though it's free, you have to feed yourself over there. And so that's why we have to look at all these things and situate it properly within the manpower needs of the country. And then we can find a way forward with regards to education.
Away from education, the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources is to improve upon the sanitation in the Greater Accra region. In 4.5 years, the $53.86 million Greater Accra Sustainable Sanitation and Livelihood Improvement Project is aimed at increasing access to safe and sustainable sanitation.
The Sustainable Development Goal 6 seeks to ensure availability and sustainability management of water and sanitation for all by 2030. At present, too many people still lack access to safely managed water supplies and sanitation facilities. This, the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources seeks to achieve with the Greater Accra Sustainable Sanitation and Livelihood Improvement Project. $48.85 million of the project cost is borne by the African Development Bank, with the remaining $5.01 million coming from the government and the beneficiary communities. The project seeks to provide domestic and municipal level sanitation infrastructure, support skills development and livelihood improvement. It will again enhance the capacity of sanitation service providers and the participating assemblies to better deliver and manage sanitation services.
Today's launching is a critical milestone and an important step towards project implementation and achieving the agreed results for the benefit of the Ghanaian people.
The project is also expected to impact positively on the health and human productivity, thus contributing to the socio-economic well-being of the people within the project area.
Sanitation, as we all know, gives dignity to all of us, and it is our marching order number one to make sure that we also find solutions to make this a reality.
The minister assured of prudent management of funds to ensure maximum benefit.
And now the Paramount Queen at Nkonya traditional area has filed a suit in the whole High Court seeking an interlocutory injunction to prevent the Biakoya District Assembly from going ahead to site its assembly complex at Nkonya Kejebi. The plaintiff contends the land is in dispute, hence siting of the assembly complex could spark a renewed violence conflict in an already volatile community.
The suit number E1224-2019 was filed at the Ho High Court on Thursday, October 4, 2018 against two defendants, the Biakoya District Assembly and the District Chief Executive, Comfort Atta. The plaintiff and Paramount Queen of Nkonya traditional area, Nana Otubia II, is seeking to restrain all activities relating to the Biakoya District Assembly Complex project. The plaintiff in the suit is praying the court to restrain the District Assembly from purchasing and siting the office complex on disputed parcel of land at Nkonya Kejebi. The plaintiff argued the Assembly opting to buy land which has been in dispute since 1999 and involve more than 3 families could spark violence and result in bloodshed. The writ again wants the court to compel the District Assembly to vest the project to the land donated free of charge by the traditional authority for the office complex. However, the scheduled sitting has been adjourned to October 25 following the transfer of the presiding judge, NCA Agbevo. The postponement was to allow the new judge, Justice maintain ample time to study the document. Both parties were in court. Since its creation in 2012, the Biakoya District Assembly has operated from a rented facility at Nkonya Ahinkro, pending the construction of a permanent office complex.
Time now for a breather. We're back shortly. Don't go away. Welcome back from the break. You're also watching the latest edition of News at 10 on TV3, also live on DSTV channel 279 with me, Grace Hamuasare. Let's do some other stories now. The cargo tracking node CTN policy is intended to be rolled out from tomorrow, Monday, October 15, despite a suit challenging its implementation. A statement signed by the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, Emmanuel Kofi Nti, served notice of the start of the intervention.
A freight forwarder, John Kwame Edujak, has sued the GRA and CTN Ghana Limited over the policy and wants the court to declare its plan implementation illegal. He also wants the court to place an injunction on the implementation of the policy, which the GRA says is to provide greater scrutiny of major imports for both valuation and security management purposes. Per the policy, importers whose import from records exceeds 36 20-foot equivalent units per year will be required to obtain a CTN number in the country of export. This means any importer who imports less than 36 20-foot equivalent units per year is exempt from CTN compliance. Further, businesses that import more than 36 20-foot equivalent units per year but can demonstrate that the nature of their imports and their turnovers make them small importers will be exempted. Those exemptions are to ensure that small and medium-scale importers, mostly petty traders, small distributors, and other small to medium businesses, are free from the requirements of this intervention.
When we go to the Brongahafo region, poultry farmers there have bemoaned the high cost of feed, which they say is crippling their business. Some farmers lament they've had to fold up due to the high production cost and interest on loans granted by banks. Here's a report by Johnson Tichi.
Maize constitutes more than 50% of feed for birds. According to farmers, the price of maize is making it practically impossible to feed their birds.
One price for about 4 to 5 years.
We are running the poultry farms at a loss. As input costs keep increasing, our output prices have been fairly constant for many years. We are appealing to the government to stop the importation of poultry and give the contract to Ghanaian poultry farmers. This will help create more jobs.
They anticipate a crisis following the high demand for the staple crop. They fear an imminent shortage of maize, which they blame on the fall armyworm invasion, which has destroyed many hectares of farms. Many poultry farms have had to lay off workers, while others have had to fold up. To them, the National Food Buffer Stock Company, where staple foods are purchased from farmers and stored and sold later, is not an option because the stock, they argued, could even not be adequate for schools. They also lamented over the high interest of loans they have contracted from banks and importation of frozen chicken.
Interest rate is very high.
Interest rates on loans from the banks averaging 30 to 32% is too high for us. It looks like we are working for the banks. We are appealing to the government to help us get soft loans.
The maize take 70% of the total feeding cost. The high cost of the poultry feed is also the major problem. The vaccination, whole lot of continue for up to next year. Then most of the poultry farmers will collapse because we find it very difficult to feed the birds. Currently, we have the capacity of 140,000 birds, but we are using 80 bags of maize per every blessed day, and it's very unfortunate we don't get the maize to feed the birds. At the moment, 960 Ghana cedis per 50 kilos.
Let's talk about health now, because the Deputy Ashanti Regional Director of Ghana Health Services in charge of clinical care, Dr. Adumako Boateng, has bemoaned the inadequate number of ophthalmologists in the region. The region, with an estimated population of 5.4 million people, has only 8 ophthalmologists. Reports by Ibrahim Abubakar.
Dr. Adomako expressed disappointment over the high number of visual impairment due to cataract cases, which he said could easily have been corrected. He blamed the situation on delaying reporting for treatment.
A disease that can be prevalent to that complication where people are blind. So the emphasis then, as we are stating, is that eye care everywhere. And because if you don't have this service everywhere, then the tendency for people to come with complication is very high. So in terms of Ashanti region, Ghana and globally, the leading form of blindness is cataract.
Dr. Adomako said inadequate ophthalmologists in the region is affecting effective eye care delivery.
What we have done is that we have trained community health officers, and these community health officers go into the communities, and by simple examination they're able to pick people who will have to be referred to other centers for appropriate treatment. If you are looking at the human resources that we have, for the whole, if you exclude Konfanoche, we have only 8 ophthalmologists in Ashanti region. The centers that can really operate on cataract are the regional hospital, Pramso Hospital, St. Michael's Hospital, and then the last one that we can operate is Agogo.
At an event to commemorate World Sight Day, Programs Manager for Orbis International, a health-related NGO, Adolf Olenu, called for support to promote eye care.
Preventable conditions. And so we feel it is important that if you highlight some of these conditions, then we will be in a position to give people a chance to restore their sight and gain their sight back. As you know, the eyes, they say, is always the window to the soul. Primarily, it is always has to do with access to eye health care services. There is also the cost component, and then also there is our behaviors with regards to seeking health care.
The NGO is supporting the Ashanti Regional Health Directorate to train community health officers in 4 districts to help identify eye conditions which require prompt referral for management.
And we hope their call is heeded too, so a lot more ophthalmologists are sent to the Ashanti region and other parts of the country. That's how we end this edition of the late edition of News at 10 on TV3, which was also live on DSTV channel 279. My name is Grace Hamwa Sari. Good evening.